The QPR podcast is sponsored by Excel Environmental, a pest control company based in Northolt and the South East. They provide for all your pest control needs, along with bird control, hazardous waste removal and ground maintenance. And they're Rangers fans, so if you call them on 0845 11 666 11, mention our podcast for a 10% discount.
QPR, Response Rangers are on the up and up. QPR, now we're heading for European Cup.
Hello and welcome to Open All R's, the QPR podcast. I'm David Fraser. I have three other QPR fans around the table with me this evening. We have Paul Finney from Independent Oz.
Right.
We have Clive Whittingham from Loft for Words.
Good evening.
And we have Chris Charles from BT Sports.
Hello, how are you?
Hello, yeah, very good. Thank you. Loads to talk about. Good interview later. We're interviewing stay tuned, as they say. Is that what they say in professional broadcasting? Stay tuned, because we're speaking with Darren Peacock a bit later. Before that, though,
You just mentioned yourself with professional broadcasting.
I said, is that what they say?
All right,
and then I said, be tuned, stay tuned. No. Nice haircut, Paul. Paul's sporting a good haircut this evening.
No, I'm not as bold as it could.
And a good chunky knit again.
You look different as well. Have you had a shave?
I have had a shave. People say
you
I look a
lot
bit younger. That's what everybody says.
Have you had a wash?
What? Have I had a what?
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway.
It all fell apart after a minute.
Had a wash.
What? It's a genuine question.
Right. If you're on Twitter and you don't already, follow us on Twitter. You can do so at QPR Pod. Find us on Facebook. It's still called the new QPR Podcast, but we should change that, really, because we've been in this guise. I think it's a year next week, actually. But that's another discussion for another time. And if you want to listen to all old episodes, you can do so on our website, which is www.qprpod.co.uk. Right, we won on Saturday.
We won. Clive on the show.
We got Clive on the show.
First time ever.
Is it?
First time ever after a win, yeah.
Is that why you look so nervous?
Yeah.
You look like you honestly...
I don't really know what to say.
Well, let's come to you first then.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today?
I usually come in a cloak and a scythe thing, don't I?
We've usually lost or sacked a manager or something.
Yeah, that's
Actually, I've been improving on your dress sense, to be fair.
Yeah, fair point, said Paul Finney. Jesus.
Don't take any comments about dress sense from Paul Finney.
No, I wasn't going to start. No, yeah, it was good, wasn't it? I thought it was our most complete performance of the season, probably, and we should have won by a lot more. You know, poor finishing let us down a bit there, but yeah, we look really, really strong from what we can gather. Hasselbank obviously wasn't happy with the levels of fitness of the team when he arrived, and as you know, from what you hear on the grapevine, and he basically spent the FA Cup third round weekend, which we obviously sacked off, and the subsequent FA Cup fourth round weekend, which we had free. Basically, those fortnights were done as mini pre-seasons to try and get the players up to some sort of level. You know, teething problems in the meantime is that meant that they were frequently knackered late in games, which we saw at Ipswich away and Blackburn away and things like that, where they obviously tired. But yeah, I think you're starting to see the results of that, because we looked a lot sort of fresher, quicker, fitter, playing higher up the pitch on Saturday. You know, the only problem was we scored too early, because you know, still 7. It was 88 minutes. Still gives you 2 and 5 to play, and that was enough to make Ipswich look like go from the worst team in the Championship to the best team you've ever seen in your life. I think so. Yeah, try and score a bit later next time. But overall, I thought it was terrific on Saturday. Really.
Yeah,
Chris?
I mean, well, doesn't it make a change to get a late winner rather than letting a late equaliser? Or I mean, it was. I concur with everything Clive said as well. I mean, it must benefit them as well, being fitter and being able to last the pace. Obviously, Ali got a knock, which hopefully isn't too bad. I mean, I think all over the pitch are really good. Smithies, you actually don't get me wrong. I like Green, and Green made some important saves that kept us in games. We shouldn't forget that. But I do feel more comfortable with Smithies in the sticks, and between the sticks, I think probably the defence do too. Mm-hmm. I thought Hoylett's probably our most improved player, and I thought as soon as the January window was shut, then he'd go back in his shell. But he was, because we did our little away day up to Forest, and what struck me there was that we were almost trying to pass the ball a la Arsenal style into the net, whereas this time we were letting go with a few long ranges. Hoylett was sort of, his radar wasn't on, but at least we were sort of, making them work. And the energy levels were superb. I can't single out one particular player. I thought they were all had a really good game. Even Perch looked good.
Paul?
I'm happy. There's nothing to complain about. We played well. I think Hall is just getting better and better. I think at the end of the season, if we have him for next season, I'll be amazed, because he must be on people's radars now.
Well, they quickly got in with a contract extension there, which is very good of the club. So, yeah,
we'll call that the Austin ruling.
Yeah.
Him and Ned are just looking so good together, and perhaps it's given the fullbacks a wee bit of confidence to actually just try and concentrate and chasing people, because. The only thing that was disappointing was how Ipswich seemed to target Ali's knee a little bit, which I thought they did that
really deliberately outrageous. Early, too, properly nasty challenge and
deliberate.
Hasselbank says that Fawley makes us tick, which even after 3 ACLs he kind of does. But I thought that was a deliberate sort of targeting of him.
I don't think he went off injured though. Chris, I know you picked something up. I don't think he went off injured.
No, he was. I looked at the clock. He was limping for about 18 minutes, and he was struggling a bit, and he ran it off. And then towards the end of the half, he looked fine. But when he went off, there was no obvious sign. But I think they'd obviously had a word at half time. So I see what did they take him off, about an hour? Wasn't it?
About an hour.
Yeah.
One of the problems with Hasselbank I've found so far is he makes his substitutions quite late. Whereas on Saturday we seemed a lot more proactive with that, which helped.
But the thing is, what I felt as well. He is definitely working a lot better in midfield, because everyone seems to have found a new lease of life. I mean, even Matty Phillips, he scored and everything, but even before that, he started to come into the game a lot more. Hoylett's done a lot better. The two new lads, I think, will do well.
Yeah. Are you talking about Washington and Nasser?
Yeah,
can't pronounce his
surname. Kid.
El Khayati. Yeah, okay.
I'm not even going to try.
Okay,
but the good thing is that their players are on the way up. It's exactly the system we should be using. It's been implemented. We've talked about it so long. But that kid will play a big role for QPR. Maybe not this season, but next season.
Which one? Sorry.
So the kid from Burton.
Khayati.
There's a touch of the Paolo one-chops about him, I think, in that if he doesn't know what he's going to do next, how can a defender read what he's going to do next?
He's got tricky feet.
To be fair to him, though, to make your debut, make that step up, which is still a big step, and just to look at them in the eyes and just go straight apart, that takes.
I thought he looked great, but did you think it was a cross or a shot?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
I thought it was a cross in real time when I was there, and then when you watch the replay, it's clearly a shot.
I thought it was a shot at the time.
I thought it was a shot at the time, and definitely a shot.
It's what you want it to be.
Yeah,
it was the best cross ever.
It's what you make.
I'm sort of right behind the goal, and so maybe we got a good view. But I mean, just the way he just slung it from his left to his right, whether it was a cross or a shot. His right to his left, whatever it was. I mean, it was just he bamboozled them. He was only on a few minutes, and his very first.
He was on
touch,
10 minutes. Yeah. And there's so much to talk about this guy.
We've been crying out for this since, dare I say, elephant in the room. Adel Tarab's gone. Someone who's going to get a few bums off seats, make people stand up and sort of get into it. That's another thing. The crowd, I thought, was the best crowd of the season in terms of atmosphere, and I think that was helped by the fact that Ipswich had both tiers, because I think because the Ipswich with Ipswich singing. Yeah. I think almost it's spurred on the Rangers fans to sort of have a go back. You don't agree, Paul?
South Africa Road must be a lot quieter than what everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm near.
There wasn't much after the goal. Yeah, there was, but you sit near me, Clive.
It was better than it
was
has
better
been,
than the
but
last few games.
It's been really poor in the past few games. But in the away ends at the last few away games, the sort of atmosphere and overall mood has been a lot calmer and sort of more positive than it was before Christmas. I think we should just write sort of October, November and December off as our mad half hour for the season. When we suddenly decided we were going to get promoted after all, it just seemed to create a really odd atmosphere around the place. And now we've gone back to the original plan A from the summer. It seems to be benefiting us.
Well, I think there's almost like a relief, really, certainly on my part. I mean, even after winning on Saturday, we still stayed 13th, I think. And it's like, basically, I'm going to jinx it, but we're not going to go down now. I think there's too much of a gap there unless we go on a horrendous run. We're not going to go up unless by some minor miracle. And as I said the last time I was on, I'm quite happy with that. And I think everyone's almost relieved. It's like, right, let's get on with it, try a few things out, like you say, get the fitness up, and become a team where you buy players to fit into your system, rather than just buy random players and then just try and squeeze all the big names onto the pitch at once.
The only thing the club need to do, in my opinion, You probably all disagree with me because I talk a lot about CAC. But there needs to be, for the new season ticket scheme, there needs to be a buzz brought back in to get people to renew, because everyone I'm talking to is not renewing because it's too early, and because of the 30% increase it will be if you miss out and you lose your seat. So hopefully the club will rethink that and extend it, because I at the moment I can't see it working.
Just to finish on the team before we go on to the season ticket, it just feels like an extended pre-season for next season at the moment, and a lot of the teams that have gone on to win the championship recently, including us under Warnock and Bournemouth and Watford and teams like this, actually did the same thing. They had a sort of mediocre mid-table season the season before, which gave them 3 or 4 months at the end of the previous season to do a bit of experimenting and work out exactly what they needed for the summer, get the transfer business done early, hit the ground running in August, and off they went. That's what happened with Warnock when he was here. The season ticket thing is odd. The timing I think is much better than it was, because previously you got your prices in May. You had one payday at the end of May, and you had to have bought by the end of June, otherwise you lost your seat. So at least this way they've given you sort of 5 months and 5 paydays. Where it sort of falls down is this idea that if you don't buy by the 31st of March, it goes up by at least 30%.
Ridiculous.
And it's already expensive for Championship. So that bit needs rethink. I don't have a problem with the date and renewing early, because it always used to be like that at QPR.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm thinking is we need to build the support. There's a lot of empty seats there Saturday on the lower loft, and I think the club could extend it to try and get the feel-good factor back and get more people back into the ground, because once people walk away and break the habit, they don't come back.
Exactly, and I'm all for rewarding the loyalty. Show your commitment for next season.
Well,
to put it up by. If they're actually going to put it up by 30% for what is already an expensive championship season, that you're basically going to say that if you haven't bought a season ticket by the 31st of March, you're not going to buy one at all. That seems like an odd...
It's going to be very expensive.
Seems like an odd way to go about it.
Well, if we are going to go... I agree with Chris. I don't think we're going to go up or go down. But let's say we go on a little run where it's sort of... You're sort of thinking, we could make it. It's actually probably in the club's interest to extend that window. Because if you're going into April and maybe we could make the playoffs, that's probably going to hook more people in to renew for next season.
But then also you got the away games are still being played. You got the European Championship. People... I mean...
Yeah.
I just think it'd be an idea if the club just rethink it. It's sometimes not a bad thing to say to hold it. When we were going for the Premiership, it probably seemed like a good idea. Of course it did, because you're going to get Premiership football at Championship prices, albeit expensive Championship
during
prices.
the mad half hour.
Yeah, but sometimes it's best to hold your hands up and say, we need to rethink this, we need to do it properly, and get as many people into that ground as possible, because next season is going to be huge for us.
Does anyone know, is there like a finance option with this? Because I think that would help if you had obviously a 0% finance. Maybe that's asking.
But people still
much,
paying off the old ones. I don't know, because I didn't do it.
There has been a finance option.
There is
the last few years.
From what I gather, there is a finance option, and it starts next season, so you don't end up paying like for this season and next season's at the same time.
Oh, so if you go with finance, you're actually better off than paying cash. Except you're getting paid
no, I think it costs you more.
Interest.
I don't think it's 0%.
Oh, okay.
2 more things I want to ask you before we go to the interview, just to wrap up Saturday. Washington and Smithies. First proper look at Washington. I mean, really, after sort of 10-minute cameos off the bench here and there. Quite like the look of him. The thing that strikes me immediately is don't judge him as the insert copy and paste option for Charlie Austin. Different type of player, actually offers much more of the stuff that Charlie Austin didn't, around holding the ball up and getting the ball in and setting stuff up. I quite like him, but I think it will be a mistake. He doesn't appear to be every time he gets the ball at his feet, it's going to end up in the back of the net type striker that Charlie Austin was. I think he was not one of a kind, but a very, very sort of rare player that we haven't seen for a long time. But I really liked the look of him on Saturday.
He reminded me a lot of Mackie in his work rate and outside of it, but actually looks a better player than Mackie. The weird situation we've got at the minute is that Poulter and Washington seem to be two strikers that enjoy spending a lot of time outside the penalty area, working hard for the team rather than getting their nose under the crossbar.
Someone said to me John Spencer on Saturday. Someone said they reminded me.
No, John Spencer scored. John Spencer scored for absolute
I have to
fun.
confess, it was so long ago. I remember him and his impact, but I can't remember what he
Konchesky put a
played
little
like.
cross in the second half on Saturday that John Spencer would have eaten for breakfast, and there was absolutely nobody there to tap
John
it
Spencer
in.
was lethal.
The one thing Washington at the moment is noticeable that he stepped up a division is when he gets in a shooting position, he comes back inside to widen the angle. And if you look at some of his goals that he scored for Peterborough, particularly one at Scunthorpe this year, in League One, you come in, you widen the angle, and the defender's like 5 yards off you, so you can just curl it in that far corner. In the Championship, I've seen him do it 2 or 3 times now, and he gets hit.
It's close
so
down,
he just needs to get up to that sort of
Nice
stuff. But
analysis, Clive.
Yeah,
I think
we will watch his
I think he
Peterborough
looks
goal
great.
against
Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, that's because
Homework
you're
for
from
next week.
Scunthorpe, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've been watching Michael.
And,
Owen beat
He's
Sport,
he looks a really good player. I like him, and he's exactly the sort of player.
And Smithies.
excellent.
Yeah, well, what astounded me was that he was 6'3". I had to look it up on Wikipedia.
Oh, he doesn't look 6'3".
He doesn't, does he? Because I just said to my little girl, I thought he looked quite small for a keeper.
Oh, but Wikipedia makes things up.
Yeah,
There's
probably.
a guy at work who's from Reading, and he puts himself as the king of Reading on the Reading Facebook page every other week. So you can't trust anything Wikipedia says.
I think what its distribution is so much better than Green's.
It's
Yeah,
Not to
ridiculous.
play.
No,
It's
absolutely,
ridiculously better.
And also, he seems a lot more.
Particularly in that wind.
He's also very confident. He'll come for anything. I mean, whether he'll come short sometimes, I don't know. But at least he's going out there, getting it and giving it a go. And he's yapping more at the players. He's another one that wants to prove himself. I think the trouble with Robert and QPR is perhaps we went steel together. Don't know, but
He's actually making me angry now that we had to put up with Green for the first half of the season.
Really?
Yeah, why on earth
Green
have we
makes
been?
you angry,
why,
though.
Green makes me angry anyway, but why on earth, when we've had a goalkeeper that good sitting on the bench, have we been watching Green cost us points? He can't kick, his communication's poor, and he couldn't kick or communicate or command his error before he got to QPR. He had a couple of good seasons when he made saves, but he could never kick.
Well,
He could
that's
never
it, isn't
kick.
it?
And we've had this goalkeeper sitting there while Green's been costing us points. This has been his worst season by miles, and we've left Smithies sitting there, and the only reason he's in now is because of this contract situation with Green. It actually makes me cross, because Smithies is so good and was so good at Huddersfield, and he's obviously good. He's brilliant.
Huddersfield fans. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all right.
No, I was going to say. So, what are you? Without being controversial, Clive, and get off the fence on what you're saying. Why do you think they did that then? Because of the profile of Green, because of the wages, because of what reason?
Come back to get what we said previously.
Cool.
I think about the October, November, December mad half hour where the names have to play. It's a promotion season, etc., etc. We should have stuck with the plan in the summer, which seems to be the plan we're now back on.
Yeah,
For a week at least.
And I think Saturday was as much about the players who weren't there as the players who were, in the sense that Green wasn't there. We've obviously Fur's gone, Sandro's gone, Charlie's a different kettle of fish. You can't put that in the same ballpark.
No.
But I think you had a team aside playing as a team, if you know what I mean. There was no big stars there. I know Phillips for some reason. I know Phillips, but Phillips has been like that since he's been with us. Can look a bit lethargic and drifts in and out the game. But I thought he was on it on Saturday. Took some decent corners, put some good crosses. Obviously, a decent finish for the goal as well. And he's another one that once the transfer window closed, didn't get his move. He could have sulked and just
I think that's the thing. As soon as the transfer window, I went up to Blackburn, and Phillips' defensive game that night, he was actually just walking back for a lot of the he was blatant, and there was a challenge that went in on him at Rotherham, just a run-of-the-mill tackle. I haven't seen anybody jump that high out of a tackle since Scott Sinclair was here on loan, so it was blatantly he wanted to move in January, and now he hasn't got it. He's always been a bit inconsistent, but he's a good player.
But what pleased me was that he clearly wanted to move. It didn't come off, but the toys didn't come out. He was actually putting the effort in on. Of course he's getting he should do. But you know what the modern players like. If they don't want to play, then they don't.
We got to go to the interview now, just to balance it up as far as Smithies is concerned, and sort of all the compliments and plaudits he's been getting. That incessant whacking his studs against the post, it goes right through me like fingers down a blackboard. Do you know what I mean? Does no one else notice that? He has got a nervous tick about it.
If it means that he can kick the ball three times as far as Robert Green, I'll take it.
Where do you sit? Are you right behind the goal?
I'm up aloft. Every 2 minutes is...
Okay, so you're sort of directly above
But
him.
apart from that...
Do you want to do Hoylett quickly? Do you think there's a touch of the Matthew Roses about Hoylett after 3.5 very poor years here? Suddenly, as his contract's about to expire, and he either needs it renewed here or needs a contract elsewhere, suddenly he's our best player?
I think it's since his gloves came off. Literally, the gloves are off with Hoylett. He doesn't wear them now, and since then he's been a new player.
I think that's been a little harsh. I mean, maybe you're true. I mean, I know you're an old cynic, Clive, and there's nothing wrong with that because 99%
He's actually
of the time,
a young
you're right.
cynic.
Yeah, of course
You're
he is.
not even 30 yet, are you?
I am now, yeah.
You're old enough to be Finney's son.
Let's see.
But anyway, I think as well as anything else, he's got a run of games. I mean, he was in, he was out, he was in, he was out. And I know, okay, he was running into blind alleys and not doing an awful lot, but I think the run of games has benefited him. And yeah, he was Matty Rose the other day, and the fact that he was all over the place, and I don't mean all over the place, as in here, there, and every flipping where. And I thought first half, I thought he was man of the match. If he put man of the half, if he'd buried one or two of those chances, we could have won 3 or 4-0.
I think it's a remarkable turnaround.
You're still going on the cynic side. I think, to be fair, he's also got players who want the ball played in the box and are screaming or on his case all the time.
It does help.
Yeah.
Right, we've gone on for so long, we have to go to our interview. We have.
Wonder what we're going to say.
We have on the phone for us Darren Peacock. Darren, thank you for joining us. You are a name that is held in very high affection amongst a lot of QPR fans. What are you up to these days?
Well, myself, I've most recently I've passed my B licence. USB licence, coaching licence, but I'm involved in a development centre in Lancaster, North Lancaster District Development Centre. This is sort of link we're trying to get between, grassroots and the academies. Yeah, so yeah, we're sort of underprivileged kids within the area, girls and boys. Just trying to give them a chance, really. Just trying to give them a break. So yeah, trying to get funding, sort of, from the local businesses, local people, to give the young girls and boys a chance within sport and especially football. And
our last podcast guest last week was Trev Sinclair, who was your assistant at Lancaster City. He talked to us about wanting to get into league coaching. Is that something you'd like to be doing?
It is, yeah. The problem everybody's got who's trying to get in is obviously there's very limited places, David. Yeah, so it doesn't matter what you've done as a player. Yeah, I was out the game quite a long time actually. Yeah, Trevor, I think we've both got similar objectives, targets to get back into professional football. Miss it quite a lot actually. So as I say, I'm doing sort of local and sort of coaching under 18s, under 20s, but that is the aim, that is the target, to get back into professional football.
Well, good luck with that. Let's ask you a few questions about QPR, which is why we're here. Tell us about what are your kind of memories of that period back in the 90s, almost a golden age, at least in recent memory for QPR fans. What are your memories of those years down at Loftus Road?
It was I came from the old 4th division, and at the time QPR were in the top division, albeit the 1st division. Yeah, so that was, for me personally, it was a massive sort of difference in the level of football. Don Howe brought me in alongside Bobby Gord. Fantastic coaching from Don, and Bobby was like a motivator. The supporters, my sort of everlasting memory really is, at the time, was the ground, the stadium, because it was so tight that the crowd were within touching distance really to the players, and just fantastic. At home it's a fantastic atmosphere because we were down there, weren't we? We had we were in relegation battle, more or less all the season, and the players that are injured, people like Macca, Paul Parker. We had a couple of lads that had injured, long-term injuries. That's why myself and Andrew Tilson, Rufus Brebbett got that chance. And really, that was the everlasting memory, really, of QPR. Was a great, tight, as I say, touching distance from the supporters, and you can hear every comment thrown at you, good or bad. And it was, great times. And then with Jerry, the top London club, as it was at that time, budget was a fraction of your Spurs and Arsenal at that time. So plus trying to play attractive, fluid football, which from Jerry's point of view, that was great. He wanted us to play football, but there again, on the flip side of it, he was meticulous in sort of the defensive part of our game, and that, from my point of view, Jerry was probably the best coach that I've played under.
And I think the season that most people talk about, or talk about the most, I suppose, from that era that you played was the 92-93, when we were top London club. And in many ways, Les Ferdinand, who's running the football side of the club now, it's almost like the club are trying to get back to and recreate those days. What made the club? What made the club and the team so special?
I think in those days, the social side of football was a lot more loose, shall we say? You could socialise a lot more. We can go out. We had lots of meals together. I remember Jerry would put us in on a Tuesday. He would absolutely run us, until some lads were physically ill on a Tuesday, but then we'd go out to a local Italian and have a few drinks and something to eat, and then have the Wednesday off. And that was really, I felt that was really important to get the social side of the squad together. We'd go out with partners as well. And as you say, Les and Ray, and the way we wanted to play football, we were encouraged to play football. And with Les, we can either put it to his feet or put it over the top, which I've explained to people many, many times about how sort of well thought of Les is in that respect. But that wasn't the only sort of golden sort of player, so to speak, as we had. We had lots of talented players at that point, attack-minded players as well, which Jerry sort of nurtured and sort of got the best out of the players, young players as well, and Jerry would bring lower league players into the squad and give them a chance.
What you were one of those lower league players that stepped up, Darren. It was Bobby Gould that seemed to get a lot of the credit for signing you in the first place. How did the signing come about? How did you sort of hear of QPR's interest? Were there other clubs sniffing around? How did the whole move happen in the first place?
Yeah, well, I've known Bobby for years. I knew Bobby when I lived in Bristol, when I was a schoolboy. And there's a rumour that Bobby's, at that point, had his little black book of players that he thought would, progress, from non-league, low leagues, into the top league. So, as I say, myself, Andy Tilson and Rufus Brebbett, he brought us three in within, I think it was a month of him being him going to QPR. And that's what he done. I think that's what a lot of clubs need to look for now. And I think I've touched on it before. When I was down at QPR last season against Newcastle. That's what the way, really, I think QPR should go. Obviously not 11 players from sort of non-league or lower reaches of the Football League, but at least give lads a chance of proving themselves and sort of progressing, and the coaching is the key. And that's what Bobby did with sort of Don's expertise in coaching, and that's why I feel it was so successful. And QPR at that point, they were selling maybe 1-2 players a season, to not to survive, but to give the lads that did go on to sort of so-called bigger clubs to give them a chance on a bigger stage.
Do you think that, I mean, finishing fifth in the Premier League was an amazing achievement? What would it have needed? I mean, could that team, as it was, have gone on and done more, maybe won a cup? Or what would it have needed to have taken that next step? Because obviously that's as far as we ever went.
Yeah. I think at that time it was, the Premier League was the sort of birth of the Premier League around that time. More money was coming in from the Premier League. 4 or 5 years later. So it was. I think it needed a bit of foresight. Maybe not selling players for the highest bid. Trying to be sort of progressive. Bringing players in and keeping a bigger squad maybe, but getting sort of competition for places, and as I say, not selling those players on, but a lot of the time it comes down to wages, doesn't it? And it's got absolutely mental now in the Premiership and football in general. But I think it was needed consistency. Needed the players to stay, the better players for a longer duration of time. And then Jerry wasn't around for so long, was he? But I think it's really important that the head of the ship, i.e. Jerry or whoever it is, whoever's there, they need to be there in a longer duration. 3, 4, 5 years to put the plans, into. Whatever it is, whoever they want to bring in, whatever players they want to get rid of, those managers, they need time to sort of turn things around, and that's really what needed. Even back then, David. Even back then, when Jerry was manager.
Darren, this is Paul here. I was actually at that derby match when you made your debut with the other two guys. And the week up to it, there was all this stuff, and there was no players around. It was similar to as it is now. And out come these three gems. But it must have been. Were they very welcoming to you when you came into the side in them days? Was QPR like a proper family? Would you have said? Because three of you came in at once.
But it was. Things have changed so much. They were like when we would park around the corner, or we would park. I don't know what the situation now, but we would park on the streets, on the flats or the houses, and it'd be a 5-10 minute walk. And then we'd just walk into the ground and just have a chat with the supporters. Just have a chat, sign a few autographs. At that point, I remember, we would go to sort of summer sort of open day at QPR, and end of the season there would be so many get-togethers with the supporters. And we would all mingle together. And that's whether that's the same situation now, I'm not so sure. But that's how football was back then, back in the early 90s. There's most probably changed a lot now. But there's, it was, even though we speak to the supporters, there's no sort of, everybody was. And that's the relationship between the supporters and the players was great, I thought.
Now there was a special bond in that squad, because I got to say, because I was over for the memorial match for Alan McDonald, and yourself was there as well, and it seemed to be that squad. I was the guy talking to you about teenage daughter problems at the bar. You probably don't remember me. There's no reason why you should. And music.
I do, had a few pints of Guinness in of Macca.
Yeah, well, I thought you were drinking water and I was inside, but never mind. But the thing is, there was still, what I got from that evening, was there's still enormous respect for Roy Wilkinson. When he was in the room, everyone was just around Roy, and it was so good. I was pleased in Macca's memory that everyone turned up, and it was an amazing night. And seriously, you done the lad proud by going there, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, Macca was forever twisting people's tails, and he was great at sort of winding people up. But then again, he would sort of put his arm around them, like give them encouragement, advice, information. But that was that just goes to show when we did go across to his funeral, what people thought of him, players, past players, management, coaches, and supporters. And it's a great shame that we've lost Macca, but his sort of legacy lives on.
Hi Darren, it's Chris here. How you doing? All right?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, yourselves?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Just two questions. One, you're in the QPR side that beat Man United 4-1 at Old Trafford. Is that the best game you've ever been involved with?
I lost that question. Was it the Man United game?
Yeah, sorry. I said, you're in the QPR side that won 4-1 at Old Trafford memorably. Is that the best game you've been involved in as a professional?
Yeah, I think it was. There's lots of factors there. It was. I think it was, if memory serves me right, it was about 3 or 4 of our players. It was the first time we played there. Certainly, it was the first time I played there. I remember Ian Holloway, Dennis Bailey. The first time we played actually at Old Trafford. They were top. We were more or less bottom, I think, or very, very close to it. And we were expected to get drubbing. That's why we were on TV, I suppose. And it could have been, the pitch was shocking, as it was quite often, back in those days. But it could have been more. I think Dennis missed one and Roy missed another one. But it was a great game. Yeah, it was a fantastic game, and it was just so good to, when we scored, each time you could just sort of split it in half. You could more or less hear a pin drop, but from the United supporters, but in the top sort of realms of the stadium, you could hear the Rangers going nuts. So it was just sort of really like it's like a surreal sort of feeling, really. As I say, it's silence, but this sort of far away up in the far echelons of the stand with all these, QPR supporters, been absolutely mental. But it was great. It was fantastic.
Okay, and just before we go back to modern day, I mean, do you think, obviously we're going back to our roots, if you like, of being bringing on the young players again, hopefully anyway. I mean, do you think there's any chance of us replicating the good old days back when you were playing, or do you think we're sort of resigned to be, bobbing along in the bottom of the half of the Premier League, top of the Championship?
Well, I think that's really how, a lot of people know my views of how I think it should be going. Jimmy's getting players out what he feels now that obviously he wants to get his own players in, but I think it's vital that he's given time to do. Obviously he's gone in with a plan. He's got a job in the first place because of what he said, what he's expressed that he wants to do, how he can take the club forward. Not necessarily this season. We've had a good run. I think it's 5 games, isn't it? Unbeaten. Yeah. And it's just got to put on this. Even when he first came in, I think quite a few of us thought, well, he's going to bring players from Burton, which would be great. Not two players, but he would know players within that division that maybe could step up to top of Championship, stroke. Premiership, if given the chance. But I really do feel that it's got to be a long-term project, and not sort of chop and change. He's a good young coach, isn't he? And he would have some good ideas. And as I say, given time and a good budget, to progress the players that he's got. Get the players out that he wants to get out, bring the players in that he wants to bring in, and then sort of, as I say, reshuffle his pack. And I think it's really important that this season, maybe not even next season, but he's got to build, he's got to get the right blend of players, the right squad that he wants, and then, kick on to, bigger and better things.
Yeah, I think most of us agree with that, mate.
Darren, but thank you very much for your time. Before we go, we cannot let an interview with you pass without asking about the Barnet. How long's the hair these days? People will want to know.
He's still got it.
I know, yeah. I can't let it go, man. It's a lot shorter than what it was. It's a lot greyer, but it's definitely a lot shorter. Yeah, maybe I will get like a number one.
No, you with the crew cut wouldn't seem right. Wouldn't seem right.
Take it from a baldy bastard like me. Keep your hair the way it is, son.
Darren, thank you very much for your time. Really good to hear from you, and hopefully come on again, because it's always good to hear from you.
Cheers, Darren.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.
Cheers, pal.
Bye bye. Okay, interesting what you said, Finney, about Ray Wilkins, because I've always thought that I loved Ray Wilkins at the time, and I always felt that he's never properly got the credit that he deserves because of the Chelsea connection.
Well, no, because he kind of got us relegated.
But I mean as a player. Sorry, I meant as a player.
I think he meant as a player.
No, I don't think so. I think he was one of the best, whatever age he was, from my opinion at Rangers, is one of the best midfield players I've ever seen. The way he used to pass the ball, the way he used to control that midfield.
I agree. But we've never talked about him like that on this podcast.
Maybe
Potentially
not.
Because of either what you're saying, the managerial thing, or the Chelsea connection.
It is a weird one. I remember you were there as well, probably, the Forest, when we lost the final game of that season, the 3-0 away to Forest, and it was almost like everyone was taking a mickey, and we lost, and the Forest fans came on the pitch to applaud us, and we thought they were going to attack us, and it was all surreal. His time as manager was a bit surreal, though. There were some strange things done. I mean, signing Haitley on crutches is probably...
The Haitley thing was a low point. You are right. I think it's more the fact that he was a poor manager for us that means that we don't remember him as fondly as we should, rather than anything
but he's up
to
there.
do with Chelsea.
I actually thought at the time, I mean, far be it from me as a foreigner to say this, I think he should have got an England recall when he's playing for QPR. He was playing that well.
He was fantastic. Anyway,
when you consider that Carlton Palmer got England caps around that time.
I can't possibly comment.
Ours End, anything that we haven't talked about yet that you want to bring up? Who wants to go first? Clive?
It was probably longer than an R's End, which will disappoint you greatly. But the grief that Les Ferdinand is getting and continues to get, I find really bizarre. I think there's obviously been some mistakes, and there's probably some ongoing mistakes as well. Some of the players we've signed up, aren't going to work, but that's what happens. The Steve Gallen thing is reflecting very badly on everybody, and I suspect there's lots more to come out on that, and it's a real shame. But we said for ages there weren't enough QPR people at the club, and Ferdinand's there now, Sinton's there, Impey, Furlong, these people are in there. We said we didn't have enough scouts. I think we've gone from 6 to 30 scouts under Ferdinand. We said we should have someone with football experience at board level, and that's what Ferdinand is, and we've now got a chief executive with a track record as well, as opposed to someone who tops up his CV and goes to watch Chelsea. The sort of players we're signing, Washington, Luongo, people like that, is exactly the sort of people we've been clamouring to sign for ages.
Sorry, Clive.
Yeah.
Has somebody taken you over for the evening?
What?
And I'm just not used to hearing you speak like this.
What? In a positive... Have
you been offered 2 pages of the programme?
I've basically, for years and years, been saying that this is, what I want to see at QPR. So I can't help but be positive about Ferdinand now. But if you look at, particularly on social media, which isn't the best sort of place to be as a QPR fan now, because it's a fairly vile place. But there's proper sort of dislike for him there, this whole idea that it's jobs for the boys, only employs people from Tottenham, only employs black people, only employs his mates, which you only have to look at the people he's hired to know that isn't true. And I just think I'm sort of a mind of what exactly do we want? Is this not what's gone on? Like I said, there have been mistakes, and the Steve Gallen thing is appalling in my opinion. But overall, what did we actually want from the people running our club if it's not what Les Ferdinand is doing now? I don't understand the grief he's getting. I don't understand the level, the vitriol, or the personal nature of it. I mean, he should even be able to live off his reputation previously, but he's not even doing that. But he should be given. He's only been in the job a year. I just don't understand it.
I don't think it's I mean, it might be on social media. There's because empty vessels make more noise and all that stuff. But I mean, certainly the people I know, I don't think that view is in the majority. It's held by the majority of people. I mean, you've got to remember that on social media there was a clamouring after 6 games to get Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank sacked. So the problem is that it makes people are so impatient these days, and if things don't happen yesterday, then like I say, there's not been so much Ferdinand stuff. Now people have accepted we're not going up, we're not going down. I think it's all calmed down a bit, and hopefully that's going to stay. But I totally concur with what you said. I mean, it's ridiculous.
But that wasn't Ferdinand's doing, to be fair. That was Fernandez coming in and saying we've got to go up.
Absolutely.
That heaped a lot of pressure on it. I mean, the only thing I would say that the way that Steve Gallen was treated, whoever was responsible should hang their head in shame. It was a disgrace, in my opinion. Steve was there for nearly 20 years. He had 2 deaths to deal with and everything else. He had an appalling time. He had Palladini trying to absolutely rip the youth team to shreds and kind of merges with Chelsea in some kind of bizarre youth team setup way. And the great story was told by somebody who was on this podcast was that, when everything was going mental with Palladini and it was all like the Chinese brawl and everything else, they'd go to the training ground and Steve Gallen would take them one side and tell them everything positive about QPR. And the fact that he brought in Sterling and raised more money than any first team manager's done in the last 10 years as well. And then you get Les saying we haven't brought players through. But what Les didn't realise is that everyone was halfway decent. We were getting sold on the cheap. The thing about social media is it's like going into QPR is like going into an angry pub and asking for a drink and then everyone arguing with you what you want to drink.
Well, I go into an angry pub on Saturday and the people there are perfectly reasonable, whereas social media seems like a bit of a snake. But I actually follow more rugby league accounts on Twitter now than QPR accounts.
That's sad.
I just can't be doing with it.
Well, maybe we need to just
sad because I like rugby league, or sad?
Maybe we need to take a time out. Right, I've got...
Well, that's why they call them keyboard warriors, isn't it? Because
But I've got 3 quick R's end. First one was going to thank Steve Gallen for everything he's done for QPR. The club should have given him a proper send-off and done something properly decent for him, and they let him down. And it
is dreadful what's going on.
It was dreadful. And secondly, it's the anniversary, unfortunately, of the death of Harold Winton, who was a great man for QPR, who did a lot of good for QPR. And part of the old QPR that people want to come back was down to people like him who were very prepared to put their hand in the pocket and give us players to try and build dreams. And fair play to Harold, and he is much missed, and what a lovely fella he was as well. And thirdly, Alan Barnes, get well soon. Dreadful incident that he suffered on the way to Nottingham. Everyone from the LSA was genuinely shocked as they came into the ground. I've never seen so many people close to tears, and it was a harrowing experience for everyone who was there, especially Sack Sutton, who was sitting near me, who seemed visibly upset and couldn't really control himself during the game, because you two seem, well, you might not notice, but yeah, Alan, get well soon. He'll be more. He won't worry about the injuries. This is a weird thing about Alan.
He'll be worry about missing the games.
I know, it's terrible. He hasn't missed any games, and he must be absolutely going mad. But stay in there, Alan. Get well soon, and you'll come back, and the Rangers will still be here for you.
I'll go. Right, 2 things. First of all, I've been asked by QPR Supporters Club in New York City to give a shout out for they're meeting up early on Saturday morning for the Fulham match. If you can mention that for us on this week's pod, it would be greatly appreciated. We'll be at the Factory at Legends on 33rd Street, 7:30am kickoff.
Legends, that sounds like a price.
Can I just talk about something very quickly about Fulham? How weird it's not sold out from both sets. Is that Sky kickoffs at 12:30 killing the season? Is it
12:30 kickoffs have just got so little going for them, haven't they? It's a horrendous time of
It's going to kill the atmosphere as well. We need to play Fulham at 7:30 because that way everyone can be drunk.
Exactly.
Carry on, David. Sorry.
My R's end has got nothing to do with QPR. But it's also got everything to do with QPR.
We're all sacked, lads.
I wanted
down tools. Off we go.
I wanted to give a little nod to Leicester City. To give a little nod to Leicester City because that is what every club in a position like QPR would want to be. A seemingly well-run club, hasn't overspent, and is like they've sort of reinvented the team. They've got some incredible players. They signed, Clive talks about, Dave Mack talks about QPR should be signing players that nobody's ever heard of. That's what they did with Mahrez and with
Danny Simpson.
Well, and the Japanese fella, I think he's brilliant. Okazaki, players like that. They are living the dream. They are what we can inspire, what we can aspire to. And I actually find them quite inspirational because it means it's not just the whole top 4 like it always is. You know, these media pundits have told us for years and years no one else will ever have a chance apart from the top 4 or 5. And Leicester are showing them what they can do. And maybe one day that'll be us.
Yeah. The great thing about it is the old boys club on the sports page is the head football writer at the Sun and the head football writer at the Mirror, John Cross and what's his name, Custis, all sent tweets out when Ranieri was appointed, saying it was a joke appointment made by foreign owners who have no idea what they're doing. So I enjoy retweeting that every week.
The thing about Leicester is it just shows you don't have to overspend and put your club's history and culture at risk to succeed.
I think anyone who's not a fan of the top 4 should all be a Leicester fan now. I mean, I would...
Hashtag I am Leicester.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, but it is that there is that little,
does anyone
rankle as well, because just thinking, Christ, the guy we just sort of offloaded is now about possibly to win the Premier League.
Might have done a job for us last season as well.
Leicester are a similar club to us. Maybe a little.
Does anyone around this table not want Leicester to win the Premier League?
Engineer.
Oh, Gabe the engineer.
Oh yeah, Gabe's an Arsenal fan.
There's also one person who really doesn't want Leicester to win the Premier League, who's going to be his worst nightmare because it could be a P45. Mr. Scudamore, head of the Premier League, is right at this moment cacking himself because he went on record saying he prefers it when the likes of Man United win the league because it's more global exposure.
Yeah, there's a Man City fan at work saying that it wouldn't be good, if one of the big 4 doesn't win it. I'm trying to find out.
A Man City fan said that
because Man City have always been big 4.
Right. We've got to finish. Chris.
Okay, yeah, very quickly. First, shout out to Rob from Archway who met on the tube on the way to the game. He tapped me on the shoulder and I was slightly concerned and bizarrely said, "Are you on the podcast? I recognise your voice."
Brilliant.
Which is quite weird. I don't think he knew which one I was, although he probably had a fair stab. I wasn't Finney. So hello, Rob. And the second one is, now this could go either way. It's probably going to go the wrong way. I know. I just saw having a new song for. I'm not going to sing. Don't worry. For a new guy, Khayati. You've got to fight for your right, Khayati.
Like it.
Do you like that?
Like it.
Yeah.
Like it.
Bloody hell, Chris.
Right.
Have you two been changed and cloned and redeveloped as somebody else? Because you both made a lot of sense in that, and that was funny for him.
I told you should have me on after.
Did you have a third?
No, or you could say he's dynamite on the right, Khayati, but I think he's got that first.
Now you're overdoing it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Okay.
Right, we have to go because we're way over time. Next week we are back, but it's half term, so we're doing a kids special. We're going to have us and a few young QPR fans in. It could go either way. We'll see how it goes. We did open it up to anybody that had a youngster that wanted to join us. We actually haven't had any entries at all. So if on Twitter you've got someone, you've got son, daughter, niece, nephew, godson, whatever, who wants to come on, tweet us or Facebook us or email us with their name, age, favourite player, and why they should come on the podcast. And we're going to pick
beer.
One of them for the free beer. And we're going to pick one of them to join us next week. Gabe is going to be the star of the show next week, the engineer, because he's going to have to pull it together, and it could be a complete mess, but let's hope not.
Grand. Come on, get them in.
Right. Thank you very much for listening. It's been the QPR Podcast. The QPR Podcast is a West 12 Media and Burble Media production. The QPR Podcast is sponsored by Excel Environmental, a pest control company based in Northolt and the South East. They provide for all your pest control needs, along with bird control, hazardous waste removal and ground maintenance. And they're Rangers fans, so if you call them on 0845 11 666 11, mention our podcast for a 10% discount.
QPR.